Everyone, please welcome to the stage Google's Vice President, Retail and Consumer, Google Cloud, Carrie Tharp.
In person with you guys. This is my first in-person interaction in a year and a half, so I'm glad I didn't trip, and I'm going to try to work both sides of the audience because I've been used to just working that video conference. So welcome to our session that's going to talk a little bit about the future of grocery from Google and a former retail executive's perspective. I'm Carrie Tharp, and I lead up retail industry solutions at Google Cloud. And I actually started my career in retail a very long time ago. So I actually started rolling the dough and ringing the register at my parents' grocery store and bakery back in the 80s. That is actually me in 80s athleisure at the age of 3. And also because we're in Vegas, this used to be the place you ran the numbers and bet on the ponies. I wasn't a part of that. I was optimizing the assortment in the candy aisle. But what it taught me was customer experience, and knowing your customer at a local level is at the heart of retail. Since then, I've spent the rest of my career in retail and luxury goods and fashion accessories, and even schlepping the milk and getting to the perfect milk order at Dean Foods. Through all of that, technology was a big part of bringing customer experience and new ways of interacting with customers. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we see from a Google Insights perspective, that behavioral dynamic merging together with technology trends and what that means for you guys today. It goes without saying that the way we shop for groceries has certainly changed forever. I don't need to tell you guys that. But what we've seen in research is that it takes 66 days to form a habit. When we first started the pandemic, most of us thought we were going to be in our house 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We ordered some stuff online. We did some searches for that toilet paper. But the reality is we settled in for a lot longer than that. And in a high-frequency category like grocery, we've now really set new patterns and behaviors that will stay for a long time. And that's what we're seeing in the Google data. So even as COVID has eased, the consumer behaviors around digital and omni are still there, and they're growing. So let's first start with digital. That's not new news. Long before the pandemic came along, it was with you guys. But in grocery specifically, we were always getting the question, how much is that digital penetration really going to be? A lot of people still like that in-store experience, and that changed overnight. What's interesting now from a digital perspective is that that's still a big portion mobile. So even though we're all stuck at home and we have those laptops, grocery consumers are using mobile devices to shop. And still big growth in them looking for your grocery apps. So they really want an end-to-end experience that exposes them to all your different capabilities that you might have from an omni perspective. Of course, omni, we have to talk about that. Again, a big trend in retail for many, many years. But what really changed since then is this focus on near me. So we saw it before the pandemic, but it became really important in the pandemic. Is the store open near me? Is the store near me in stock? Do they have curbside? And this curbside number, frankly, looks a little low, but that's coming off the backs of last year, the first year of the pandemic, where it was a 3,000% growth globally. So that's an example where curbside is now here to stay, and it continues to grow even as restrictions are easing. Big thing to think about here is inventory. So everything that shopper is saying, I'm influenced globally, I'm watching TikTok, I'm doing the dance challenges, but at the end of the day, product is still about near me and what's in stock. So that consumer journey still has all the same parts. We're all going to go through the same phases. But really what's changing is the consumer expectation of what you need to do for them at each of those steps and how technology is a part of that journey. Now it's an expectation of personalization. So 2 out of 3 consumers expecting you to personalize to them while still respecting their privacy. They want contactless payment. inventory visibility, as I said, but they're also discovering in different ways. So the journey has really expanded out, as you guys have known for years, into social, thinking about bloggers and getting product information in new places. And so as a grocer, it's not just about the battle in store, it's really how you're extending your brand into all these other places that the consumer didn't originally think of you first. You might not have even been in their brain during that part of the journey. And how can you now make a name for yourself at those different journey stages? So the future of grocery is easy, intuitive, and helpful. Is that new news? Not necessarily. But what I would tell you is the definition of what is convenient and what you're expected to provide has now changed. And technology is coming down the maturity curve to help you deliver that to your consumers in a more effective way. So today, how many of you guys are actually the grocery shopper for your house? It's a process, right? Whether you're using an app, whether you have a pre-built list, whether you're the wander down the aisles and just make sure you get everything kind of person, there's friction. So people are writing those lists down and thinking about things, but the future is conversational. So the old structure of site search and navigation in a digital perspective is not the way people shop. People shop naturally, intuitively, and a lot of times that's conversational. This is an example where a lot of big mass merchants and a couple of big grocers tried this several years ago, but the consumer wasn't ready. It is one of the top things we're now working with global grocers on enabling to say, what is that future evolution of experience, where I can just talk to my device or my phone and have a recipe or ingredients added to my list without even thinking about it. We're also taking a picture. So if you've ever sent somebody to the grocery store for you and you're hoping they come back with that right milk or the right brand of something that you need for your kids, you're not quite sure if that's going to happen. So what if you just walk your pantry and kind of scan everything you need and pop that into your list? Next is inventory. So as I mentioned today, it can be pretty hard to understand if your store near you has something in stock. You just show up and kind of check that one shelf that has that item. For me, it's cherry by Bubbles. I go to 3-4 different grocery stores to get it, and sometimes Amazon in a pinch. But now a lot of grocers are starting to feed that inventory into places like Google and adding it to your own site. The difference here is that true omni-channel view, real-time inventory visibility. This is not what you had yesterday or when batch updated last night. This is literally right now. If I go there, are you going to have it? And cloud capabilities and computer vision in store is changing the game. And consumers that are doing this now are grocers who are doing this now are setting the bar for consumers to expect this from everyone going forward. There's also product information. So we all read packages in stores. We might want to find out information about back into the supply chain. Is this sustainably sourced? What about this packaging? Can this truly be gluten-free? The package, I'm not exactly sure what's saying. And so how do you use technology to help consumers understand that information during their journey? We've all seen people in the aisle maybe Googling something, and how do you use vision and app-based experiences to get that information to them and really have an end-to-end view of your supply chain, unlike has been possible in the past? So today also, aside from the shopping exercise, the actual meal planning can be pretty tough. So I think many of you probably have opted to getting some takeout when you don't have the time or the energy to do dinner for the family on a certain night. And really, all the parts of that journey are left to your customer. To think about a recipe, to get the inspiration, to translate that to all the ingredients, to know where that is in the store. After decades of grocery shopping, I can still come up with an ingredient that I'm not quite sure what aisle that's supposed to be in. And it can be hard. It adds time. Today, time is really the luxury. So if you can remove time out of the process, it's important. The future is shoppable recipes that are immersively in your own digital experiences or making direct connections all the way back from social into your shopping. This, to me, is also about share of wallet for grocery. So a lot of you guys recaptured some of that dining out money during COVID when people couldn't go to the restaurants. But for years, we've seen the rise of these delivery services, whether it's you still putting the dinner together yourself or it's prepackaged and you just kind of put it in the microwave. That's grocery share to have. That's an example of the customer need going unmet, that luxury of time, and making it easier to have something healthy, something prepared, and making sure you're removing that friction in the journey and taking that back and making it accessible to more customers. If you've done any of those services, it can be pretty expensive. And so when you think about it, if grocery can fill that consumer need, it's a way for you to create a sticky branded experience with your customer. More and more friction removal. So assisted experiences. Like I said, everything in the journey today is work. It's work for me. It's work for you to go through that process. So things like Google Assistant, shoppers have to navigate through different steps, online payment, transaction. I'm going to tell you when I'm going to be there to deliver. It's moving towards that being done and ready for you. So proactive assistance, helping you understand delivery options, giving you substitutions if items are out of stock, and doing all of that seamlessly inside your grocery app or in other places where a person might be shopping. Also means all the way through delivery. So now we have the capability to connect this all the way into delivery. Customer can hit a button, tell you they're coming. Maybe they're not coming in their slot. They just picked one because that was kind of in the zone, and can alert you they're on their way. And perhaps you can meet that customer's expectation that you might be a couple minutes early with their order being ready. This also goes into autonomous delivery. So are we there yet? We're about to be. So the Waymos of the world, the Neuros of the world are moving to having autonomous delivery available. And what this does is, again, take another burden. We have a lot of customers struggling to get your pickup slots. They're struggling to get delivery slots. There's all these services kind of surrounding grocery of other models to get this product picked and taken all the way. And so as a grocer, if you want to own that end-to-end journey, how do you start working with autonomous delivery as customers will begin to expect this more and more? We've gone from the 2-day to 1-day to same day to now sub 30-minute. And so how do you kind of get outside the labor boundaries, as many folks have been constrained to get people to staff all of the different omni services and really create this new experience for your customers? Back of house is very important as well. So AI and ML has really changed the game about what you can be doing in your stores. So here I'll talk about vision and Google Glass. So today your associates probably have some kind of device in their hand. They might have some paper in their hand when they're picking those orders. And even a device is cumbersome, putting it down on the cart, picking the item, which aisle are you going down? And so we see the future as hands-free. So things like Google Glass can be integrated with operational bots that are helping optimize flow and giving your associate both hands to work with, whether it's in picking or even training, so food service prep, things like that. And vision is now hit a new level. So from a computer vision standpoint, the ability to now see shelf inventory availability, to use it for frictionless checkout, has really come down the curve. We now can use synthetic data to understand all the different states of product on your shelf and get after these use cases that maybe a lot of you have tested them over the years and it never seemed quite practical to scale. We're now seeing grocery specifically and mass merchants move into rapid scaling. And all of this leads to better customer experience for your consumer. Lastly is data. Of course, Google, we got to talk about data a little bit. You all have loyalty programs and different data that you're sitting on, but it's really turning that data into intelligence. So all of retail, not just grocery, is sitting on mountains of this data and hasn't really gotten to untap it yet. The combination of the consumer, the product, the supply chain data, bringing that together in real time, maybe with human in the loop, maybe not, using AI and ML. This can be for personalized promotions and interactions, but also for things like labor scheduling, demand forecasting, removing inefficiency out of the system, and not necessarily replacing your employees, but taking the time away from the work of the work, the minding the store, and moving it to these new branded immersive experiences that are what is going to keep a customer engaged with you, as opposed to spending all that time just making sure the shelves are stocked and the registers are running. What this means is technology, digital capabilities to scale all of these experiences. It is now touching all steps of the retail value chain and bringing new experiences to the consumer. And I'll talk a little bit about a couple of grocers that we've specifically worked with that have a lot of these different types of efforts going on and are setting a new bar for the pace of innovation. And really, when you think about retail, transformation and digital transformation is a requirement, but it's also a race. So it's one of those, we're moving out of the period where you can kind of sit back and see what somebody else is doing and who's scaling it first, and really saying, what's the name you're going to create for yourself now? Because you've got a lot of people waiting in the wings, disaggregating parts of the value chain, taking those value steps that you used to own with your customer, and how do you make sure you're at the front? Carrefour is one of our partners that we have an innovation agreement with. They've built out an AI lab that actually has Google engineers working with them on a whole list of different problems. One of them, most interestingly, that sits at the center of many of the trends I was talking about, is thinking about assortment optimization at the local level. So they built an assortment tool that allows their store directors to be wrapping their assortment around their specific customer at a store, and also shopping trends and search trends around their store, and gives headquarters visibility to some of those decisions and their merchants the insights to evolve over time. This has resulted in greater store performance for Carrefour, and just an example of using that data down to a store-specific level to frankly go back to the past of you knowing what your customers were actually buying and having that inventory ready for them. Albertsons is another big partner of ours, big scaled partner here in the US. We actually started working with them during COVID with a rapid response agent. So many of you guys were quickly overwhelmed with, are you open? Do you have toilet paper? What's the COVID protocol? And that was overwhelming call centers and stores. And so we were able to spin up an AI-based agent in 2 weeks to help with all those problems. And that's that dynamic of speed that the cloud gives you. But has evolved over time to Albertsons using many of our different capabilities to bring their brand closer to the customer. So they're leveraging capabilities like business messaging, where you can set up kind of delivery and pickup options on the business profile page that you have. So as a consumer is shopping and looking around, wondering if you have inventory, you can have a branded interaction with them on Google. And so you're capturing a trip before you might even lose it. Somebody else might have popped something up in front of that customer digitally, and they might have gone to a different store. So it allows Albertsons to have a branded interaction with that customer and provide more interaction, even if the customer never makes it to their own site. So lots of fun stuff coming from Albertsons in the future. They're a great example of working with Google to say, hey, you guys have built a bunch of stuff that we could use to create our own experiences. And rather than building everything from scratch, how can we pull together elements very quickly and drive rapid transformation? So lots of exciting experiences to come from that team. And then last, I'll call it Schnucks. So technology is not just about scale. You can bring it to bear in businesses of all scale and size, so over 100 different stores. And they came to us kind of with the challenge of processes, ordering, things like that in the store that were still paper-based. We're able to implement Chrome devices and remove some of the kind of manual processes in stores, and also building out data platforms to garner insights that help them change experiences. So what does this mean overall? I hope you got a few insights of how to think about bringing technology together in your business. Really, it is innovation, ease, convenience, whatever kind of word you want to use to say, take out the work, put in the fun, make it easier, and meet customers' expectations of, you should know that I want to be gluten-free. You should know that I get my inspiration on YouTube. You should know that I have a toddler that doesn't like purple food. And how do you put that together and serve things up for me that I don't have to go anywhere else besides my grocer? And what's exciting for me as kind of the former marketer and the former kind of chief digital officer is this is that opportunity to create a whole new branded interaction. There's many brands in the world that consumers, when they think of them, it elicits feeling of love and passion, and they talk about it on social and they'll tweet about it. I don't know how many grocers fall in that passion category. But I think there really is that opportunity for us to just set that new bar and new expectation to say, hey, we're here more than to just make sure the shelves are stocked and you guys have everything you need for this week. And we really are a sticky engagement that we're thinking about your needs. I think the future of what you guys are going to create from branded in-store experiences as you free up that labor and resource in the store on those lower value add type of activities and can move into more customer engagement is very exciting, and I'm excited to see what you guys have all done by next year when we're back here talking again. Thank you. That is everything from Google, and hopefully some of those insights were new information or maybe gave you a different way to think about how you can incorporate it into your business. Thank you.